getting things rolling?
Yeah, I'd say we're getting grounded in the transition. So I feel kind of more flow. Yeah. Or have more. Maybe I'm not. Just have more equanimity. I don't know. I don't actually know what's happening. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm gonna use my voice first. It never works. I always try to do this. Just quite.
Yes. Yeah.
I have to do one more. I did two. So we have a couple more people coming in. So good to see you. Hi. Hi, everyone. Really good to be here. This was a last minute surprise. So Soryu's running a little late. He'll be here in about 10 minutes. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Denise Casey, also sometimes known as Kyoshin around here. And really happy to be here. I love this community. I love to be sitting here or where you are. I love to be in this room. So Soryu is going to be here in a little bit. It was his mother's birthday, so he's coming a little late from there. Today is Easter, and so we are going to explore some of the themes of Easter in our practice today. And Soryu is going to go a little further into that. So let's take a moment just to get in our seats. I always think it's nice just to kind of fiddle around at the beginning and taking a breath in and straightening up in your back. And then exhale, settle into your seat. First, just take a couple moments just to make a couple of adjustments. Noticing your chin, your neck, shoulders. Noticing your jaw and relaxing. A lot of times we think in meditation, the object is to be completely still, and sometimes that negates the fact that we can move when we're in discomfort. So if at any point you have discomfort, please move to adjust yourself. Now start to bring your attention to rest in the body, the physical sensations of rest in the body. You might notice there's a lot of movement or a lot of maybe excitement just coming in, talking, sitting down. One way to focus on rest in the body is by intentionally focusing on your out-breath, on the exhale. And reminding yourself that it's perfectly natural for you to be distracted by thoughts or emotions. And just gently bring your attention back to the physical sensations of rest in your body. You might notice some heaviness in your body that feels restful. Or the sensation of your hands on your lap, on your legs, feet on the earth. Just starting to develop a growing awareness of rest in your body. Your attention might be drawn to places that are not restful, that are tense. And just like the sense of rest in your body, try to bring a restful awareness to those sensations. So just allowing them to be here. And then as much as you can, returning your attention to any sense of rest that is in the body. And if your eyes are closed, notice the darkness behind your eyelids.
Good. And as we come out of restful states, as we exit this cave, let's begin with the Lord's Prayer. Those of you who are familiar with it, please join along. I think turn down for somebody. I'll begin with the Lord's Prayer today. Our Heavenly Father, blessed be thy name. It's going to be a little bit louder. Our Heavenly Father, blessed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Recently, I wrote a series of verses, several dozen verses, inviting people to join us, people to join the efforts that we are engaged in this community. We have a community here, a community of a few hundred people in the Burlington area. And we have a somewhat smaller community of people who reside in Johnson and maintain an intense meditation practice while also striving to serve the world. And I began each of the verses with the same 3 lines. Each of the verses to invite people to come and join us in this community, join us in the community in Johnson, join us to do what? How would one introduce this? And the way I decided to introduce it was by saying, if you're willing to die for life on earth, come join us. And then I said other things to finish it in many different ways. But each of the verses began with that. If you're willing to die for life on earth, come join us. Now, each of those verses had a sister verse, you might say. And that one began with, if you're willing to live for life on earth, come join us. And this day, Easter, in the Christian tradition, is all about this topic. In Christianity, there's a role model for us, someone who is willing to die, and someone who's willing to live, someone who died completely and came fully to life. As many of you probably know, in early Christianity, before it became too, how shall we say, engaged with politics, there was a very clear goal that was stated with a very clear word. And the goal was iso-Christos, which means that the goal of practicing Christianity is to become equivalent to Christ, to become Christ ourselves. That's the goal. Later on, it became more fashionable to say that no one can become like Jesus Christ. But originally the purpose was that we all become like Jesus Christ. And what does this mean? It means that we're willing to die. It means that we see the problems in the world. We see that there's a great deal of temptation and evil. And our solution to that is to die. Interesting, isn't it? Very different from the normal solutions that we think of nowadays. Nowadays, the solution is create an internet campaign, right? Create a campaign on the internet, create a movement, make an ad campaign, make a new business, change something, get to work, make a difference, do something. Well, we'll get to that. But before that, Jesus saw the importance of not doing any of that. In fact, not doing anything at all. Dying, being buried in a cave. Totally incapable of doing anything at all. Being willing to be nailed up on his cross. He had a vow. He had a destiny. He had scriptures to fulfill, you might say. And he was willing to go through what he needed to go through in order to go through what he needed to go through. And again, if you look at this and the way it was originally understood, each of us has this opportunity. Each of us has a vow. Each of us has an awesome commitment and incredible dedication. Each of us has a vocation that we strive to achieve. And we put ourselves on the line for that. Put ourselves on the line for that means that we carry our cross. We take that up, whatever it is. And I don't know if any of you know this story, although I suppose a lot of you have a sense of it. There was a relatively young rabbi referred to as Jesus of Nazareth. And they crucified him, put him in a cave. And if you read this story, if you look at it closely, naturally you have to a certain extent, look through what you read, which I know is also kind of a heresy nowadays to say, but I come from a mystical background, and in mysticism we consider experience to be more important than dogma. And it's important for us to look for experience in this story. What is the experience that this story is referring to? This is another way of dealing with the story. One way is to say this is history. There's very little evidence that this is history, just so you know. As an amateur historian, I can tell you that there's not a lot of history here. There's something more important than history here. There's something far more important than history. There's a story being told that is of enormous value. And it's not a story about something that happened a long time ago and could never happen again. It's a story about something that needs to happen today for each of us. And that is that we see what needs to be done. We have a vow, we have a cross, we have a commitment, a dedication, a vocation. And so we take whatever it is that gives us. We just take it. If you read it, you don't see Jesus complaining very much. If you read through the story, a surprising lack of complaining you'll find, considering what's happening. Yes, they're really hurting him. Just to wear thorns on his head. All kinds of terrible things happen. And if you read through it, you'll find amazing how little complaining there is. Really, you'll be surprised. Especially if we look at, maybe, I know for me, I look at myself. I consider what I go through, what he went through, my amount of complaining, his amount of complaining, very surprising. We take that up, we take it up, and we receive it. And if you look at the story in the way that I look at it, which you may or may not, but if you look at it the way I look at it, then you see a person who again and again proves that he has faith, proves that he trusts. And trusts in this case means that each next thing gets taken away from him. Each next thing until the very end. And there are different stories, of course. This is why I say that you don't want to think about this as a history. Because if it were history, then there wouldn't be so many different accounts of what happened right before he died. There are many different versions of what happened, what he said just before he died. But the one that I like to point out the most, my favorite of them all, is that he asked his father, meaning God, said, God, why have you forsaken me? Now this, you might say, is a complaint. I think it is. I think he's complaining finally. And I think that that's beautiful, actually. That's the final thing. We give up everything and everything and everything, but we still have faith in something. But faith in something isn't real faith. That's still holding on to something. There's still something we haven't let go of. And so finally, he needed to let go even of God. And then he died. This death, again, from my perspective, the background that I come from, I think it's unlikely that he physically died, because I've met people who have entered a trance in which you'd think they were dead for a number of days. In Asia, India especially, Tibet certainly, you see, China, you meet people who can enter such deep states of meditation that they seem to be dead. It's a big problem in Tibet, actually. It's really an issue because they often don't know when to have a funeral for the masters. But the funeral for the master is important. But it happens so consistently that the master will be apparently dead for days on end that they don't, is he dead? We don't know. He could be dead. And so they have a whole thing where they fill up their, maybe some of you know about this, they fill up their mouth and their nose with, what's tsampa? What is that? What do you call that? Batter, barley batter, like you'd make bread out of. Dough, not batter, it's dough. With dough, you fill up all this for days, but you have to wait days because they're in such a deep state of concentration, they could live for days without a single breath. So, and then there's no discernible heartbeat. And sometimes it literally happens. This is true that I know of a time that this happened in India. They had the village guru who was clearly finally dead for sure. And so they lifted him up onto the funeral pyre and lit it. And he woke up and said, folks, I've just meditated. Take me down. They got him down. Sorry about that. So this happens. And I expect that at that point, Jesus experienced what I'm referring to as, when I say death, when I say if you're willing to die for life on earth, I don't mean if you're willing to commit suicide or get shot or something. I'm not talking about that kind of death. I'm talking about letting go totally, absolute faith. And he entered that place and stayed there for quite a while. Are we willing to do that? Are we in our world willing to do that? Do we have such a commitment to life on earth, which we as a species, we as humanity, we have done terrible things to life on earth. We continue to do terrible things to life on earth. We do terrible things to ourselves, to each other, and to other species. We face this. When they talk about Jesus dying for our sins, we often turn it into this really ineffective reaction that actually shuts us down, as opposed to seeing that this is real and something has to be done about it. This is real. There's something real that we have done, are doing, that's unacceptable. And something has to be done about it. That is clear to us. Something must be done. We're here to do it. And then, at that point, can we see what he saw and give up? Can we do that? Can we give up in that way? Give up fully, totally let go of everything. He couldn't do anything. Try to understand. They do this in Christianity. You imagine yourself going through this. Maybe some of you have any of you practiced this? I practiced it a little bit. None of you have practiced.
Practice what?
The stages of the cross. I believe it's a Dominican practice. You've done this, yes? So this is it Dominican? Yeah. So it's a very impressive practice where you yourself imagine going through that process that he went through.
They do it in Colombia.
What?
They do it in Colombia too. They do it in Colombia. They do it in other places besides. Sorry.
Oh no, not the Dominican Republic.
Oh, the
Yes,
oh,
there's a
okay.
form of Catholicism. Anyway, so yes, so there's a practice in which we imagine ourselves going through this. We imagine ourselves going through this process. As that's happening, in my experience of it anyway, there's a sense of increasing helplessness, increasing vulnerability. Is that the direction we go when we realize how important it is that we change the world, that we do something about the sins, if you say, the mistakes of the world? Sin means mistake, just so you know. It means error. It has a lot of other connotations that have come with it over the centuries, but originally it just meant that you missed. It meant you miss, that's all. It just means you miss.
You tried to hit the target with an arrow, but you missed. So sins, errors, ignorance. We have this sense of original ignorance, and we need to do something about it. Is the immediate response very good? Excellent. I'll connect with a lot of people in loving ways and become increasingly vulnerable until I die, until I've let go of everything. As I say, I don't think of this as a physical death. I expect that Jesus entered a very deep, very impressive trance and then came out of it, as happens so often. But that shouldn't make us think that he didn't really let go. You enter a trance like that, you have let go. People can do anything they want with you. Consider, just consider. The other two people, it usually takes a few days to die up on the cross, as terrible as that might seem. He had only been up there for a few hours when he passed away or passed into trance. And the other two folks, the other two, I guess you'd say criminals, were up there still. They took them down. Yes, what did they do to them? Does anyone know? They broke their legs because they didn't want them to get away. So they broke their legs. That can happen to you if you let go at this level. So is our reaction, yes, I must do something so I will let go? If we see that, if we see the importance of letting go, then we see the significance of this path. Then we see the significance of this path. Then we're in a position to see why we're doing what we're doing. Otherwise, all these, you see these people here who go and they go and live in a monastery for a while. They sit still for a long time doing nothing. Why? It seems ridiculous, doesn't it? Wasting their time. There are important things to do in the world. But if we see this, that the first thing is, how do we practice letting go? That's the first thing. How do I die? How do I become totally vulnerable? How do I drop everything, primarily my body and my mind? How do I do that? How do I lose everything? That's the first question that we answer with this path. Then it's utterly miraculous. It is, isn't it? We talk about this as a miracle, don't we? It's a miracle. And it's not just some miracle that maybe happened a few thousand years ago. It's a miracle that we ourselves get to experience, the miracle of miraculously. That's an important word here. It's a miracle that we come back to life. It's miraculous because we didn't do that. We were dead, remember? We couldn't bring ourselves back to life. We couldn't decide to come back to life. We couldn't say, I'm coming back to life. Any big, dangerous work for somebody to do, I'll do it. Send me out there. I'm tough and smart. There's none of that. There's total vulnerability and strangely, mysteriously, unintentionally, and helplessly, because it's nice in the cave. It's really nice in that cave. If you've ever been in there, you know how nice it is. It's really nice to have passed away, to have let go of everything. No intelligent person would move that rock and walk out. You have to be a fool to do that. And we become a fool when we die. Totally helpless, totally incapable, totally vulnerable, and mysteriously, miraculously, somehow, unknown, life carries our bodies out of that cave. And we find ourselves changing the history of the world without meaning to, in a way that's in accordance with our vow, in a way that's based upon the difficulties that we went through as we carried that cross. This is a very impressive story. There's no need to say it's some kind of historically accurate tale, because that actually is insulting to the value of this story. This story has more value than history. It's not that it has to be history in order to be true. It's true. That's that. And it's our job, as has been told to me so many times, it's our job to confirm that. It's our job. We have that task, as was his task. And he did it once when he went to the desert. He did it again when he went into the cave. He had this task. Is it true? He needed to know. And we need to know. Is it true that when one dies, one comes back to life? Is that true? That when one has let go of everything, one is of benefit? Is that true? We can intellectually conclude that it's probably true. Yes, I think so, we can say. But that's not at all the same thing as actually letting go. Actually sitting down or lying down or standing or walking and dropping everything. Entering the cave in which our lives have been lost, in which we've forgotten who we are. We've forgotten what we came here to do, what we believe in, what we have faith in. And finally, we can have faith in nothing. That's true faith. Faith in nothing at all. Faith that's free from holding on to anything. This is our opportunity when we do this practice. And then it's our opportunity, to whatever extent we have experienced that, to step forth, to step out of the cave. And I don't know, I guess in this crowd, few of you are familiar with the story. It's a very well structured story, especially since there are 4 or 6 or so versions of it in existence right now, and you can compare them. It's very interesting, the different teachings that are given through the different lenses of the different people who are carrying this tradition, this wisdom tradition. But one of the themes that you see after he comes out of the cave is that nobody recognizes him. I don't know if you know that. Mary Magdalene doesn't recognize him. She doesn't recognize him. She's looking at him face to face, and she doesn't know who it is. That's interesting, isn't it? And then she goes and tells people, this is Jesus. And they look at him, and they don't recognize him, and they don't believe it. Isn't that interesting? Read the book if you want to. It's really quite a good book, very popular. You won't have trouble finding copies. No one recognizes him. It's incredible. And because of that, the honor that he had been given is lost. Nobody honors him. Nobody says, oh, you're so wonderful, Rabbi. So you're so magnificent. He's lost all of that. In the same way that we experience. We come out and we're not the same person, and people don't like us because they lost the person who they loved. Yes, that's how it is. And we don't get the honor and the respect that we probably come along with my big sacrifice. Yes? What do we get out of it? We don't get anything out of it. That's why it's important that we have faith in nothing at all. So, thank you for bringing us a little bit into the cave, a little bit into the darkness, into the forgetting. And thank you all for putting up with a certain interpretation of things, certain way of looking at this story. I know that this story has a lot of different interpretations, but I hope that this one is useful to you this evening. So let's do an exploration together. Let's practice descending into nothing. to begin, as a starting point, consider your commitment. Consider your dedication. Consider whatever way that it's true that you're willing to die for life on earth. That you're willing to give up everything for the sake of peace on earth. To protect this planet from human greed. To protect all living things from hatred, violence, selfishness, ignorance. Consider the things that you have been willing to do. And there is no need to, at this point, come up with nothing. I know that everyone here has done many things out of service to others. So allow yourself to tell this story. The story of Jesus is first and foremost a story of Jesus. It's okay to tell a story. It's okay to tell the story of sacrifice. It's a story worth recounting. So recount to yourself the story of your own sacrifices, your own dedication, your own commitment, your own vow. And recount to yourself the things that have then come to you that may have been uncomfortable, difficult, challenging. And try to interpret those events as a cleansing process, as you receiving the opportunity to be purified. Your willingness to do what must be done. Your willingness to do what must be done, even if that means that you lose power and agency. The ability to get things to be the way you want them to be. Interpret it as a purification, as a celebration. As the path that makes each of us iso-Christos, each of us equivalent to the anointed majesty. Each of us magnificent and beautiful and worthy of worship and reverence. See yourself in that way. That's the challenge now. To recount your dedication, what has happened to you as a result, and observe how it is that that makes you worthy of reverence. This exercise is one of telling a story about the sacrifices you've made in order to fulfill your vow. And as you observe the difficulties, to carefully balance, on the one side, the humility and the vulnerability that comes from accepting your own powerlessness, and the majesty and beauty of knowing I'm the person. I'm the one who can fulfill my vow. And I have been doing that in these ways. Of course, it may happen that other memories also arise. Set those aside for now and allow that to lift you up into a sense of magnificence. To carefully balance vulnerability with magnificence. Humility with majesty. As you tell the story of what you've done to fulfill your vow. This is the purpose of this exercise. Of course, other kinds of thoughts may arise. If so, that's fine. That's just your cross to bear. And in receiving that thought right now, for the sake of doing this exercise, that's something magnificent. Receive that. Yes. I'll receive that. There's nothing I can do about it. I can't even control my own mind. I'm powerless to that level. I'm letting go even of that. And there you have the same story told. This, right now, is humility
This right now is magnificence. Not able to get anything to be the way I want it to be. How fully can I take? How fully can I take up this cross? And as you move through this exercise, gradually come to terms with this vow. This dedication, this willingness to die for life on earth. Sometimes this is enough. Sometimes it's useful to have a cross to nail our right hand and our left hand to. That cross is realizing two things that are both true. On our right hand, we confirm, I must do it. I must do it. I must make the world a better place. I must resolve suffering. I must find answers and implement them to the problems of the world. On the left hand, we confirm, I can't do it. I can't achieve this. I'm helpless, incapable, vulnerable, powerless to achieve this. I must, yet I can't, yet I must, yet I can't. As we come closer and closer to our vow, this is no longer intellectual knowledge. It deeply impacts our hearts.
And so we let go. We let go. We see part of this story is passing away. And now it's time to experience passing away, letting go. And one way to make this tangible, it's easy for this to become philosophical. One way to make it tangible is to lose track of the story of our lives entirely. To forget what we've done and why. To forget what we want to do and why. And to pay attention to two experiences, one for the mind and one for the body, that are very tangible. For our minds, we look into the darkness behind our closed eyes. We look there until the subtle mental images of our past have been forgotten. If they come up, that's fine. We return to this cave, this dark, thick cave, and see the darkness behind our closed eyes. Even the subtle images of the people in this room, or of this room itself, even that's forgotten. We no longer know where we are or who we are. In this way, we practice dying. In our bodies, we experience relaxation. Attention in our bodies. The intention. The body intention. Is dropped because there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. And so instead of the body intention, we experience relaxation. And gradually, we practice feeling relaxation, even if other things come up, other body sensations. Comfortable, uncomfortable, emotional or physical. We lose track of all of that. If it comes up, that's fine. We bring our attention back to relaxation so that we don't feel where we are or who we are. And as we pay attention to the blank screen behind our closed eyes and to relaxation in our bodies, we lose track of who we are and where we are. And in this way, we practice dying. Don't let it become philosophical. Keep it tangible. It's just a matter of looking into the darkness behind your closed eyes and feeling into the restfulness of relaxation in your body. Or maybe other things happen in your mind, that's fine. There may be other things happening in your body, that's fine. Focus. And let go.
Continue to descend into this cave. Any distractions are fine. Let them happen. That's our cross to bear. And keep walking. Keep walking down into the stillness. Keep walking down into the stillness, where there's nothing to see and nothing to feel. Nothing to do. Pay attention to whatever restfulness and relaxation you have. There may also be tension in your body. There may also be images in your mind. And yet keep on directing yourself down into that cave. If you need to carry this tension in your body, thought in your mind down, that's okay. It will get more and more heavy. And eventually we will be willing to drop it. If you don't have so much tension in your body or thought in your mind, then wonderful. Begin to enjoy the dying process. Enjoy the dying process.
Very good. And as you rest in this stillness and darkness, allow a deep love to blossom in that stillness and in that darkness. Not forced, not controlled. Only the love that naturally blossoms. Which may not be very much. That's fine. If no sense of love at all, no sense of love for the world arises, that's fine. That means that it's still time to descend further into this cave. That's okay. Soon enough, that love will be called out of us. Someone will want to talk to us, and they'll ask us for that love, and that's the call. That's the moment of blossoming. For now, it may not happen. But at this time, it may happen. There may be a sense of something that we want to do for the world that's in accordance with this love. And naturally, thoughts about that arise. Allow yourself now to have those thoughts of what you're going to do. And try to beware of the aspect of our minds that wants to control this and make it into the big thing that I want it to be. That's still ego, it's not death. Beware of the thought, I can't do anything. There is nothing for me that I can do. That's still ego. I want it to be big, and I'm not able to do what needs to be done. Both of those start with the same word, I. It's still ego. What about the love that's free from ego? Be guided by that. Feel it. Or descend further into this cave. Either are equally valuable. Further into the stillness and the darkness, or be drawn forth by the sense of love for the world. And imagine what you're going to do. Feel that love more and more deeply as you imagine how you're going to serve. The purpose of this part of the exercise is to let go of control in such a way that we're able to act. Perhaps no sense of love emerges at all. That's a wonderful opportunity to descend further into the darkness and the stillness of relaxation. If love does emerge, then how can a dream of what we might do arise in our minds, still connected to that love, with that love still connected to stillness? How can the love emerge naturally and then the dream emerge naturally, without getting carried away in any of that? A common obstacle at this point in this exercise is to try to assert too much control. Allow yourself to descend into the darkness and allow yourself to emerge into the light of love. Allow this to happen. That's what allows us to trust it, to have faith in it. There's no rush. If there's no hesitation. I was very fortunate as a teenager to be introduced to these practices. When we're young, 10, 12, 14 years old, in an optimal position. It's a wonderful opportunity to dive down deep into the unknown and find something new. So allow yourselves, as you do this exercise, to be in that state of mind. Jesus himself did say, and if you don't have the state of mind of a child, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. Of course, for younger people, it's easier. So for adults, we need to purify our minds so that we can return to a state of not thinking that we know how this is supposed to work out. And so our whole new life is in front of us and we don't know what it is. This is very important. So, any questions, answers, reports, disagreements? Mm-hmm.
Just a reaction to what you said. It's a little bit nitpicky, but I remember maybe a week or two ago you were talking about working with adolescents, how the state of mind of an adolescent is, I don't know how you put it, but you compared it to working with adults versus an adult state of mind versus a adolescent state of mind. Mm-hmm. And just now you mentioned a child's state of mind. Mm-hmm. So I guess, I don't know, just an immediate reaction. That's my question. How do you distinguish the positive things about a child's state of mind versus, I guess, the negative qualities of an adolescent state of mind, which you seemed pretty bothered by when you were talking about it, not really bothered by, but
the problems of an adolescent state of mind?
Yeah, versus the child's state of mind.
When was I bothered? A few weeks ago, or?
I think, yeah, you were talking about maybe working with teens, and maybe it was when you were talking about Silicon Valley.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, I think that there are positives and negatives of every age, and that if we think it's very tempting to think that there's a certain age which is better. This age is the best age, and that age isn't. But actually, each part of a human life has its own particular value, which we can take advantage of. And then if we're not at that time, then we know we might have to work a little bit harder to achieve that. So in terms of this evening, I talked a lot about I can't and I must. I can't and I must. And those two experiences sense that anything's possible. Yes, I'm gonna change the world. That's a sense. I'm gonna change the world. And then there's also a sense of lack of agency, that I can't change the world. Those two experiences are very powerful for many teens. They're also powerful for many adults, but more and more as adults, I think we get caught up in what we're doing. And that becomes what's interesting to us, what we're actually doing. And so that's a useful part about being a teen. It's also quite uncomfortable to have those experiences. So I think a teen is in a good position if they have certain abilities for concentration. they have a certain amount of the self-confidence that comes from knowing how to do what you know is right, then it's a very useful time. As a child, typically concentration isn't so good. And the idea that I have agency hasn't arisen in the way that's sometimes important for a deep meditation practice. There isn't so much a sense of personal responsibility, because that's good. You don't have that responsibility yet, as is good. And yet there's such an enormous plasticity, such a huge amount of change can happen. We're still learning how to be a person. And that, in a very reasonable way, tapers off as a teen into adulthood. We more and more need to choose which person we're going to be. But as a child, we haven't needed to decide that yet. So there's a great range of possibilities in front of us. As an adult, we typically have a great deal of agency, so that's good. And we have a lot of responsibility, which means we don't have as much agency, because we're in certain patterns, which are harder to change. And then as an older person, I hear older people talk a lot about how hard it is to be old, don't have as good of a memory, and health is maybe failing. So I can appreciate that. And yet, older people are on average happier, the happiest group of people. And on average, of course, it's just an average. Many different people are different. And the best news of all is that death is very clear. And as death approaches, this path becomes easier and easier to practice. As that becomes more clear to us. Of course, some younger person can say, I know I'm going to die, but it's harder to know that as a younger person. So each of these ages has its benefits and drawbacks. And I don't mean to imply, if that's what you hear, that I think one is good and another is bad. I'm just trying to point out that each of us has strengths and weaknesses as we go through life, and those strengths and weaknesses change. So we should be aware of that. I have a particular opportunity now that won't last forever, and I have certain challenges now that I should face. Also, that won't last forever. Does that clarify? Or were you asking something different?
Yeah, I think that was good. I guess you're saying, that the childlike state of mind is the ideal one for this practice.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, what qualities specifically?
Oh, a lack of the sense that I know how this should be.
Yeah.
A lack of the sense that I understand what's real or right. I get it. I believe that that's what was being referred to. Suzuki Roshi was a person who came to the U.S., Soto Zen master, who started the San Francisco Zen Center and a few other places. And he wrote a book that was translated into English as Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. It's a fine translation, but actually in the original Japanese, the word isn't beginner. It is Zen mind, but then it's original mind. Zen mind, original mind, is actually the way it is in the Japanese. And I suppose that Suzuki Roshi, well, his English wasn't perfect, but his Japanese, of course, was. And so I think that translation issue is good to look at. Zen Mind Beginner's Mind would definitely sell better than Zen Mind Original Mind, which seems abstract. But as we explore this path, it doesn't feel abstract. We can feel ourselves returning to an earlier and earlier state of mind, a more and more original state of mind. And that's very important. So actually, I think the most direct way of answering the question is that that it's a very good teaching because if we want to strive to achieve a child's state of mind, then we can ask, would a child ever ask, what is a child's state of mind? That's more of an adult question to ask, right? So we can set aside that question. Huh? Julian.
I liked your observation or your take on the 40 days versus going into the cave. And I don't know if you could elaborate, because in other traditions, you don't have to go through the cave, you can just go through the 40 days.
Mm-hmm.
So he was enlightened after the 40 days, but then I think, if you get it right, you're talking about how it's almost like he got to another place of faith, the non-dual place was what happened when he actually died in that story. He gave up on having the duality of thou, I, thou.
Yeah, there are a lot of different ways of interpreting this story. Countless ways of interpreting this story. But I would tend to think of that as, in my way of looking at it, today. It may not be that exciting of an interpretation, but it's just my way of interpreting it today, if you're asking for that. It is that the spiritual path is quite extensive. And in many traditions, it's discussed, certainly in Buddhism, it's discussed that there are different stages of awakening. And so the 40 days and 40 nights was an initial awakening. And then we gradually learned to integrate that into our lives. Of course, he was a very young teacher. Very young as a teacher. And the awakening worked its way into his way of living until it had gotten to a certain point when a more full awakening could take place. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the idea about vows.
Yeah.
When you were talking about looking back over your life,
Mm-hmm.
and looking for how your vow was expressed, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I've always had the feeling that I didn't really have one. But then I think, in fact, we all do. And maybe that's what you're getting at, a different kind of definition of vow. And that, in fact, that's really about, okay, this could get very long and complicated, but oftentimes when I look back on my life, I can, see where I seemed, like clueless and just so off base, making terrible decisions and feel like, and then other times I think, whoa, who am I to judge what life presented to me and how in the deepest wisdom I had at the time, did what I did. And so I kind of now see it more in terms of trusting life, including everything, including the amount of wisdom that I had or
Mhm.
have. And that maybe that's kind of more what you mean by vow.
Yeah, I don't know that a person could not have a vow.
No, how? Because in a kind of more narrow sense, we tend to think like, I vow to do good or whatever.
Right.
And my experience is that it doesn't work very well.
Right.
And
Right.
like when I worked at the family room, I used to think, oh, I haven't a clue how to do this job.
Yeah.
And then I think, oh, right. You're supposed to go there not knowing.
Right.
And just figure it out as best you can.
Yeah,
Because
probably.
you never know what's going to be presented to you.
Right.
So a vow on like a wholehearted intention?
Well, that would be good. I can't say that I've always had that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important to distinguish between. I think you're making a very good distinction, which may be a similar distinction to what you were making with the earlier question, which is the distinction between a vow or a state of mind as being something that's clearly defined. And as long as I'm living according to that, I'm living according to my vow. There's often a sense of that. I will figure out and define what it is and then hold to that. And as long as I'm holding to that, I'm fulfilling my vow. That's a very common interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
And let me come back to that interpretation in a moment. The first thing to say is, I think and I'll come back to it, it's okay, coming back to it soon. But the first thing, in a different way, we'll look at it a different way, but before coming back to it, I want to deal with it in a certain way. And I'll deal with it in another way. And the first way is, that's a highly problematic approach to one's vow. And actually is a major reason that people never get to the point where we can say, this is my vow. The first thing is to go into the cave and to lose track of all of it, to have no idea, to lose the predetermined, clearly defined sense of what it is that we hold on to. And as long as I'm holding on to this, I'm doing the right thing. That sense of here's the right thing, and as long as I'm doing it, I'm right. That isn't just, and it's okay, I'm coming back to this in a moment. It's going to be okay. So I'm going to be a little bit firm, and then we'll approach it from a different angle. First thing is, not only is that a source of enormous ignorance, it actually can be very dangerous. Because that's fundamentalism.
Mm-hmm.
And we can be fundamentalist about something other than religion. We can be fundamentalist about who I think I am.
Oh, yeah.
And what I'm supposed to do. And then we do that, and soon enough, we find that we're not satisfied. We're melancholy, afraid. We think, wait, for 20 years, I've been doing what I was born to do. How can I now be melancholy and afraid? It's not fair. And the reason is that we didn't first lose that. So we first go into the cave and lose it, and now we can return. Because as we are more and more willing to not know what our vow is, really not know, it always beats you. So if you say, well, not knowing what my vow is, that's what should happen now. No, it will win again. It's no longer that. Now it's not that anymore. Okay, well then it's not that. Wrong. Every time it is faster than we are. The moment we grab on, we've missed it. The moment we've grabbed on, we've missed it. The moment, it's not the next year, the moment, and yet we can hold on for a year or a decade or a lifetime, holding on tight. Without being willing, I should say, because we do have it, but without being willing to have the experience that you're saying when you go into work and you don't know how to do it. And you acknowledge that. and you open up to that and you jump on into that. Maybe we can do that at work. Can we do it for our lives? Can we do it with our identities? That's the first question. Having done that, then miraculously, you can say things that are so clear that it's mysterious, it's miraculous. You can say something like the Lord's Prayer, just off the top of your head, like Jesus did. You just say that. People ask you, how should we pray? You say, like this. Just like this. This is how you do it. Out of nowhere. Or Peace Pilgrim is my favorite modern American example of this. That she completely let go of what her life was supposed to be. Totally let go of that. And said, God, use me. And no more negotiations. I am giving up the negotiation process. I have given up. Whatever it is, I'll do it. If you want me to do it, I'll do it. You want me to experience it, I'll experience it. I'm no longer in charge. That happened. And then later, she could be so clear in her mission. You could ask her, well, you're a peace pilgrim. What does that mean? And she said, it means that I will walk until given shelter and fast until given food. And I'll continue to live this way until humankind has learned the way of peace. And the way of peace is this: goodness overcomes evil, and truth overcomes falsehood, and love overcomes hate. That is clear. And she could hold to that. Yes? She could hold to that. Actually hold to that. That's, to me, the meaning of that you sit on the right hand of the Father. You can be positioned then without ever leaving the location right next to God. You're holding that location. Yes, you ascend to heaven and you can stay there very mysteriously. But that doesn't happen because we grab on. It happens because we let go. And then we find in a miraculous way, not a theoretical or thought out way, but in a miraculous way that blossoms moment by moment unknown, that we continue to be in accordance with nature. Simply because we're no longer resisting that by holding on to an identity instead. So to me, of course, we must, as we go through this process, be willing to come to the point when we can hold to something. We can't be against that either. But the first thing is, are we willing to let go of everything and hold to nothing? So I think that the distinction that you're making is very, very well put, right? That there's a sense of, I should have this sense of who I am and what I'm doing, and I should be able to hold to that and know, and if someone were to ask me, I should explain it. There's that sense that that would be what it would be like to have a vow. And I would say, no, that isn't what it's like to have a vow. What you said, the other point you made is what that is that we go into situations unknown and admit that and accept that, embrace that, and are immersed in that. And yet, there's something happening, isn't there? You did serve those kids somehow. And in that place, you start to see how it is that there's a dance between I can't, I don't even know what it is, and I must. I know exactly what to do right now. I just don't know I just don't know what it is I have to do right now. But somehow I know it. I'm doing it. Here I am, serving the child. I've seen you do it. You can't say you didn't. You did. Somehow. And that point, there's something alive there. That's the vow. There's something living there. That's the vow. I think the way you've drawn that out is very skillful. The distinction that you've made.
Otherwise, it's really scary.
Yeah.
Because then you look at your life and you think, oh, I don't have one.
Exactly. But imagine what that means is I failed to make my life fit into an idea. Well, that's good news. That's exactly what we should fail at. Our vow isn't some little quaint quip. Isn't some glib phrase. Isn't a smug position. If you talk about a vow this way, this is something that a baby has. And a baby doesn't have any idea what they're doing with their life. That's why Jesus said, if you want to enter the kingdom of heaven, you have to return to the state of mind of a child. So a child doesn't think, oh, I'm going to be, I think it's so weird, not that you do this, but some people in your profession do this. What do you want to be when you grow up? What kind of a question is that? Such a strange question. I mean, if you can't answer that question, don't ask it. You should be ready for the person to ask it back. Or, if you're going to say, I don't know, then when you ask the question, be happy with that answer. Be really ready for it without hoping that a child will define themselves as early as possible. Yes, we have just a few more minutes, Eddie. There we go.
I can wait if you like.
Oh no, we have a few more minutes. We have two more minutes to be exact.
I will try to be very brief.
Yes.
2 points, briefly. One, I don't like the dark.
Yeah.
I rather look for the light and love.
Yes.
Number one.
Yeah.
And number two, the people who have gone through this and they have died in this meditation, have they had afterwards what is called near-death kind of actually experience? In other words, have they met the masters and the loving people and all of this? That's all.
Yeah, I think a near-death experience is a way to do this process, and then meditation is another way to do this process. Those are both ways, and it's very unpredictable what will happen. Some people meet masters, experience light and love. Other people don't, and both are perfectly okay. Not everyone experiences those things. And that's okay. You don't have to in order to go through this process completely. Some people do and some people don't. It's really okay both ways. That's probably as much as I can get into there. There are certain kinds of experiences that arise for certain people and don't arise for other people. But the point, while those experiences can have great value, they're not the point. They're not the point.
What is the point?
Nothing.
It's amazing.
Nothing.
Come from nothingness and return to nothingness?
Of course.
Then what's the point of it all?
Nothing.
Sorry, our time is up.
You should, if you want more explanation about nothing, you can read another Christian named St. John of the Cross. You can read his work if you want to learn more about nothing. Because this is a very special kind of nothing.
Yeah, that's
This is the supreme nothing. This is the nothing that is more complete than everything. Right now is our time to talk about service, to talk about how can we serve the world? How can we have a defined thing that we should do, right? How do we define a task and we're going to commit to it and get it done so that the world's a better place after we did it? And my friend?
Thank you. There's a very special and unique opportunity coming up. It's called Democracy Spring. There are already thousands of people signed up to participate in an immediate action to end the corruption of big money in our politics and ensure free and fair elections in which every American has an equal voice. I believe that this is a critical time for this issue. It's come to attention. Bernie Sanders has brought it forth. And so there's going to be a peaceful, massive sit-in from April 11th to the 18th in the Capitol in Washington, D.C. Before that, there's going to be a march from Philadelphia all the way to Washington. Wow. And this could be one of the largest civil disobedience actions of this century so far. So I encourage you to democracyspring.org.
Thank you. Anything else? Mm-hmm.
Well, I had something planned, but after tonight, it probably will not happen because my meditation changed that quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it doesn't really matter maybe to anybody locally because I live in Middlebury and I'm doing these half-hour sittings. It's a sit after my work in my office for people who want to come, and there's a little bit of energy exchange there. It's free, open to the public, and when I was visualizing doing it, it was nice, but then when I just went to the cave, it was so much nicer just saying, "Thy will be done," and then it was just like, it was great. So I doubt that's actually going to happen. It might be just me going to the grocery store and talking to people. I don't know. But right now, it's just happening in my office. Just taking things at 6, subject to change.
Great. Thank you for doing that. Anything else? We need one more. You can do it. What's one more thing we can do to make the world a better place this week?
Give something to the food shelf.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. One more.
Do you want to say anything about what you're doing on Wednesday?
Oh, that's a good idea. What am I doing on Wednesday?
You'll be testifying in Montpelier.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm testifying at the State House regarding putting a price on carbon, which in this case should mean a carbon tax. At 11 o'clock in room 44, I'll be testifying to the Natural Resources Committee. Is it good for people to come to that?
You would know better than I.
I don't know if it's good.
I think it's good.
Oh, you do? Have you been to these things before?
I have.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
In that case, come if you have time. Wednesday, 11 o'clock, room 44, at the state government headquarters. It's something I believe in very much. I think of global warming as a terrible danger to life on this planet, and there's a very easy solution that would be good in every way, actually, if we could do it. And I think it's important as a religious minister, a pastor, I guess I am, to say that global warming is an issue of good and evil. I think it's worth saying that. If we continue to allow this to happen, that is evil. It's wrong. And if we stop it, that is good. It's right. And it's time for us to stop it. And this is one very clear way that can be done.
Room 44?
Yeah. To have a carbon tax. It's very clear, and Vermont is considering being one of the lead states in implementing that. So that's why I'm going, to give a spiritual view on the topic. They wanted a religious figure to speak, and so they asked me to do it. Also, I guess I should say that I will be away entering my own 40 days or so, and going into my own cave for a few months. So from the middle of April to the middle of June, I'll be in solitary retreat in the woods of Vermont. So I probably won't see you during that time. And I don't know if I'll see you next Sunday. I'm planning on being here next Sunday, but I should say that it depends on what happens in my schedule. So wonderful to be able to spend this time with you. I really enjoy the Easter Sunday. So thanks for being here on this day. I look forward to seeing you soon, and thank you for maintaining this community. This is a very powerful group.
And we'll be chanting at 7:15, so feel free to join us if you'd like. We'll exit the building in silence after 10 minutes. Yeah.
Where do you do that?
Just in this room.